Welcome to the AI4EU Cafe for live presentations around AI. Today, I welcome in the cafe Klaus Heine. He's Professor of Law and Economics of the Erasmus School of Law in Rotterdam. And with his talk on AI and legal personality. My name is Carmen Williams, and I'm the moderator and organizer, and I'm director of the company Grassroots Arts and partner in the European AI4EU project. As always, we wait until everybody enters the cafe, so I'll tell you once more about the rules in the cafe. Please take notice that the session will be recorded. No confidential information shall be shared in this cafe session. In this cafe, the speaker expressed his personal view and opinion. This is not necessarily the official AI4EU project opinion. And what is this cafe about? Well, in this cafe, you find live web sessions which take place regularly since September 2019. The cafe is an online forum to gain insights into the European AI scene. Participants get the chance to share knowledge and experiences and meet stakeholders from various areas of AI research and application. And as always, it's an interactive session, so we welcome to your questions to the speaker. There is on the right side a control panel, so if you like, you can write down your questions, and after Klaus' presentation, I will read them to Klaus and he may answer them. And now I want to introduce our special guest. This is like why we're all here. I say again, hello, thank you, dear Klaus, hello. Hello, I will shortly introduce you, read your short bio, and I'm very proud to present you. Klaus Heine is Professor of Law and Economics at the Erasmus School of Law, Rotterdam. His research is recognized by an international audience through presentations at numerous international conferences and publishing in leading journals in the respective fields. He was awarded a Jean Monnet Chair of Economic Analysis of European Law in June 2012. In 2019, he became the director of the Jean Monnet Center of Excellence on Digital Governance. The center is a joint initiative of Erasmus, University Rotterdam, Bar Ilan University, and University of Leeds. The center seeks for new institutional solutions for the disruptive challenges from digitalization. Since 2019, he is also one of the directors of the Erasmus Center for Data Analytics. He's a member of Platform Lange Systeme of the government, German government, and he's associated with the Dutch AI Coalition. So this is great, and I'm even more proud that you're today in the cafe. Great to have you here. You are very welcome, and I give you now the moderator role, which means you can now show your presentation, introduce yourself once more, your talk, and I'm looking forward to hear your presentation.
Thank you very much, Carmen. I would hope that you all can hear me, so that I can say good afternoon, good morning, and good evening around the world. It is a great honor for me to be in this cafe, and I promise you an presentation on artificial intelligence and legal personality. It is an inventory, and I put there inventory because if I'm doing a good job this afternoon, then I will raise more questions than that I can answer all those questions. What I'm also doing is I give a legal presentation, and that means I will have a few pictures, but most of my slides are simply text slides. But I hope that I make it not boring, because I conceive what I'm doing this afternoon as legal legal rocket science. So after having said that, I would like to confront you with a picture, and this picture might be at first glance a bit confusing to you. What do we see here? We see the case of the so-called murderous Mary, and murderous Mary was an elephant in a circus, but on September the 13th in 1916, this elephant got crazy and murdered a few people in the circus. As a consequence, the people from Irvine in the state of Tennessee thought that murderous Mary had to be punished, and subsequently murderous Mary was hung. So what does this picture tell us about AI? Obviously, the elephant is an animal, a thing which has kind of a conscious, but can it be punished for murder someone? And why are the people treating this elephant like a human? Questions over questions. It seems a bit like in medieval times that the nature becomes personalized, gets, so to say, a kind of legal representation. And I will come to this picture back at the very end of this talk. I brought with me another picture, and that is something you are much more familiar with, I guess. It is an octopus, and this octopus is an Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon octopus, and it has under its control, what do I see there? The financial district of San Francisco, the White House, people playing on their cell phones, and so to say the whole civilization and economy. So the question is, what we draw from this tech giant picture, what is the state of art in competition law? And only yesterday, the US antitrust prosecuted Google and opened a case. Another question we would associate with this octopus here is, what about data protection law? I would also ask, what about tort law and liability law in a digital world? And finally, if you remember this Cambridge Analytica Facebook case, what about democratic accountability in such a setting? So this is, so to say, the extreme US Western case setting. But I brought also another picture with me, and that is a picture I made by myself when I had the chance last year to being invited at the Shanghai People's High Court. And at the Shanghai People's High Court, they have already an AI at work, and this AI supports judges in decision making, and also decides smaller cases by itself. So it looks like the NASA control center, and indeed it is like a bit that. And in the cellar of this building, there are about 200 programmers of this AI. So this is really existent, and the one you are seeing here, that is a chief judge from Arizona, from the US, who was also with me in this committee to visit what is going on there in China. And also here you have again then questions about democratic accountability. what is about the rule of law, and then from a, so to say, Chinese perspective, what is the meaning then of freedom of competition. So this was only meant to trigger you a bit, what kind of answers we have to give when we talk about AI and legal personality. So what is the challenge? And I'm starting here quite usual: artificial intelligence and big data disrupt technology and business models. And you all know that we have to deal with platforms and platforms regulation, the Internet of Things, 3D printing. We have to do with chatbots. That is all in these business models covered. But and now I'm getting a bit out of my comfort zone. Also, the doctrinal law has been challenged. It is not that we have only those observations in the sphere of business models and technology. No, also doctrinal law has been challenged. And some 20 years ago, the question was, so to say, kind of denied. It was talked about, yeah, this is the law of the horse. We do not need a specific digital regulation or digital law. We have a general civil code and public law. Also, in 150 years ago, there was not a law of the horse. Even that the horse played a prominent role in daily life. But nevertheless, there is a quite strong resistance to change the legal paradigm. And if I have to spot that from where this comes, especially in Europe, then I would say it is the German-speaking scholarship. They are very much in their paradigm and trying to expand what we have, and not to make disruptive changes to the law. Yeah. The question is then, obviously, do we need new legal rules to deal with AI and big data? And if we say yes to that, which of those rules are then necessary to achieve inclusive prosperity, to let all people participate in the future prospects of those technologies? That is a question, and that is also indeed what the white paper of the EU Commission aims at to answer, or gives hints or asks society to answer a couple of questions. These questions by the European Commission might be a bit too late, but who knows? The approach of the EU Commission to put the human AI into the center may do the trick in the end. I leave this at the moment a little bit open. The next consecutive question is, for sure, okay, Klaus, you're saying it is disruptive. Yeah, from where does this disruption come? What is really new here? And there I would answer, we see strong changes in the so-called production functions, which are underlying the business models. Only think about 3D printing and platforms. I will not go deeper into that, but so to say, in the substance of those production functions, something changes. Then innovations can now also take place at home with specific software and CAD files. Think again of 3D printing. Then we see autonomous decision making by robots, by chatbots, making contracts. And what is also quite important here to realize is that the distinction between consume and production becomes blurred. It is no longer so clear who is a consumer, who is a producer. Sometimes we speak already of a prosumer. This those compartments become blurred, and that has consequences. Finally, we see that the sharing economy will or implies new modes of the use of capital goods. Now, I will also not go deeper into that, but this means something for the capital structure under which we are working. So let's zoom in a bit more. What are then the challenges for law? If I put on the glasses of contract law, then we have to deal with questions of the proper allocation of responsibility. If, so to say, one of the contracting partners is a machine, how to address responsibility in a contract to a machine, and then I can say then the incumbent incentive logic, especially as it comes from law and economics, loses track. Also, the category of trust becomes, if not emptied, at least questionable what we would understand under trust in such a relation. The same is true if you look to tort law or liability law. How are developmental risks then controlled? If households produce by the help of AI and big data, but a household has not a research and development department. So what works in firms also by help of tort law to incentivize getting developmental risk under control will not take place at home or in public agencies. And if that is true, then we get a problem also with the possible compensations for victims. Yeah, the next issue in law is then property. And here we have especially to deal with questions of access to big data, to platforms. That is especially also what in the Google case since yesterday has to be discussed. And here we are confronted with questions that I'm terming as grandfather's competition law does no longer provide reasonable answers to maintain competition and innovation. And possibly those answers to those questions do not lie in an extension of competition law, but in a reshaping of what is property, especially what is property in data. Yeah, finally, something I put on this slide, but I will not delve into it deeper, is tax law. There we have big questions about what is the meaning of added value taxation and tariffs if value chains do no longer exist and AI is generating intellectual property rights as pharmaceuticals or software. And then you get those questions as is it the place where the AI does its work where the added value is created, and then taxation should be there, typically in the highly advanced countries in the world, or would it the added value created where those goods are sold? That could be also in the other countries of the world. So, and there's already a struggle to whom is tax accruing in this digital world. Yeah, as I already said, the question is, what happens to doctrinal law if machines decide autonomously? And then we are talking about the allocation of responsibilities. And the subsequent question is there, can companies as collective actors still handle those questions? If an autonomous AI in a company, or possibly not in a company, is making decisions, and who is responsible then? Here, the some, especially the EU, is obviously on the track to create something what they are calling the operators liability. That is, the ones who operate in AI shall also be then responsibility for what the results of the decision making of those AIs is. Yeah, I would say might work, but is it not a little bit too much business as usual? Will it really solve all the questions that we have, especially if AI and big data also play a role in households and in public administrations? And all those kinds of questions, we could go on now for the next 10 hours with this, culminates in the question, can an AI have its own legal personality? And if it has one, yeah, which is it then? And here we have to go a little bit back in history. And I would like you to reflect that with me, because granting legal personality to non-humans as such is not new. If you think back when large administrations had to be created to administer the colonies of the British Empire, and also of the Netherlands or of Spain, and also when you think about the Industrial Revolution as of the 17th century, then obviously large organizations had to be administered with very complex value creation processes. And at that moment, as of that time, the idea of the separation of ownership and control became a necessity within the legal framework to make those value creation processes possible. And at the end of this process, the limited liability company was created. But already at that time, and here I am referred to a quote by Baron Thurlow, who was a member of the English Parliament, said, "Did you ever expect a corporation to have a conscience when it has no soul to be damned and no body to be kicked?" And you see, obviously, this quote could be analogously used also to qualify what we have to deal with AI. What is also important here to realize is that it took, at least 100 years, but possibly 200 years, till the limited liability companies worked smoothly and got the shape as we have it today. That means we cannot expect, if we grant legal personality to an AI, that tomorrow we will already have a full-fledged codex for it. So this is also an evolution over time to find out what kind of legal personality for AI we would like to have and what is functional. Yes, having prepared you so far, let me bring here a short theoretical excurse, because I think it is necessary that you also good understand what are the underlyings for all those kinds of ideas one may have now to shape AI, legal personality for AI. And I will do that by the help of the tort law logic, liability law. So if we look there, we have, from that angle, then we have two goals. And the first goal of such a regime is to get what economists call optimal deterrence. We have those liability regimes that cases of liability will be deterred, will not happen. It is never the idea to bring it down to zero. No, it is on the optimal level those liability cases may only occur. And if you look on that from the legal perspective, then it goes about the compensation of victims. So that is what we have there in mind, and an optimal deterrence then equilibrates utility with damage. But that is not so important here now for you to understand this calculus. But the big question is, if I have this model in mind, can we expect that an AI will be incentivized like a human to compare utility and cost? This is the whole calculus here is targeted at humans and not necessarily at AIs. And you see that, for example, that paying compensations and threatening an AI with imprisonment, these are empty categories. On the side of compensation, AIs don't have at the moment their own assets and income. I will not delve deeper into that now, but what you can imagine here is that in this whole complex of allocating responsibilities to AI, we get a lot of problems with doctrinal, with legal doctrines. But still, AI as granting AI legal personality has some advantages, and I will tell you a bit about that. A basic idea here is that when you grant legal status of an legal personality to an AI, at that moment, an AI is no longer a property of a company, but gets into a contractual relation within an organization. There's also from corporate law a logic behind that. So you're changing the whole idea to whom you allocate responsibility. You get the AI with a legal personality as a target to allocate responsibility. So that is the first one. If you go further than here, then you would find out that it makes a big difference whether then such a company, such an AI, is part of a company which still has a research and developmental department, and if you put now, so to say, the social incentives on it, how they are digested in a company, because it can be digested in a company, but it cannot if it is only part of a household or a public administration. So one thing we can conclude from that, maybe we can later or also talk about this a bit more in depth, that one can expect that for example, tort law will have less a role in the future, while so-called design regulations, which ex ante target an AI, what an algorithm can do and what cannot do, will get more importance to get damages down. So, but we have a big advantage, some extra advantages if we grant legal personalities to AI, and that is if there is a legal personality, then an AI can have separate estate, meaning, for example, an AI can separately insure against damages, and it is not behind the veil of a company. Other extras are then is that an AI can have intellectual property rights. can have ownership in patents and in copyright. In the US is now the first case pending at the patent office that an AI would like to get an patent and not a natural person or a company. And an AI can then also be a target for being taxed or being expropriated. And now you see again the relation to competition law and to the Google case. It is much easier to unbundle and to expropriate an AI than the company Alphabet. The same would hold for big data. The big data are then not shielded behind the wall of a company, but could be targeted directly by the government to make those data possibly available also to small and medium-sized companies. I'm already coming to an end with my presentation. You may say, yes, sounds good, sounds convincing, or at least is worth a thought. But legal personality, how shall it look like? What kind of legal personality could that be? Yeah, and here it is very important to see that a legal personality of an AI is not meant as a legal personality of a legally competent adult. It is not an anthropomorph analogy. In the opposite, it is legal personality by design and not nature. We are giving legal personality to an AI because we think it is functional for the aims that society has. And therefore, AI as such is also not a carrier of any intrinsic ethical values. And here in this small list, you see that it is like company law. It would also be differentiated like company law. Company law we have also not because we think a company is a human. No, we have companies and different company forms because we like companies do something for us. We can also ask, for example, animal law, whether we could learn something from there to shape AI. Is an AI more a kind of a pet, more a kind of a circus elephant, or a cow? And what are the rights which are then associated to such an animal? And finally, minor law. Yeah, for sure. Children have a personality. Children may even be obliged to pay taxes. They may have a estate, but typically a 6-year-old cannot go to a bank and ask for a mortgage. So in this direction, it is possible. It is possible to functionally shape what we may understand under granting legal personality to AI. Yeah, and religious law, I put that here in brackets. That is also something which might give an inspiration to us how to do that, because some 100 years ago, and we had that with the murderous Mary scene, we could also approach this issue from a totally different perspective, where we would embrace AI as part of the nature and the human nature which is around us, and then also elephants and horses and so on can be punished and were punished. Maybe we could also find there some hints. Yeah, challenges for criminal law. That would ask for at least one separate webinar. What would, for example, mean stigmatizing of an AI? Can you stigmatize an AI? Possibly not. Also, a loss of consumption possibility through punishment for an AI means nothing. You can also not send an AI to prison. One can pull the plug as an emergency brake, but yeah, an AI is also an investment, and one would like to let it work for us. So last page, what can we learn from my short pitch here? In my opinion, AI and big data are also disruptive for law, and an attempt to rephrase the challenges we are facing within incumbent legal doctrines that will lead to an overstretch of the legal system. Keeping in line with the paradigm legal paradigm might not be a good option. I'm very convinced that those jurisdictions will win, also in economic terms, that push the law becoming a complementary driver for technology, because then the technology can be used for social inclusion and economic growth. That is also something where China is very strong with, seeing this complementarity of law and enable then the technology to play out what it can do. In my opinion, also the European AI strategy is a promising starting point. Why is that? Because European has, at least in the field of business models, the technological leadership, or has no and will also very likely not get any technological leadership. But the EU may, with its idea of human-centered AI, makes a transition to what I call this complementarity. And by playing out the complementarity with law and technology, then the EU may get, so to say, the push forward, being the jurisdiction to be in the world for AI. Finally, the discussion which I led here is also not fully new. The European Parliament already in 2017 came up with a report making it clear for legal personality of AI, but that was then strongly blocked by the European Commission and a couple of member states. I think very likely Germany again in the front row, because the legal profession and also most law professors do not like to change the paradigm, maybe for very personal reasons. An outlook. The twin question we would also have to answer here, but I will not do today, is data ownership, because AIs have to be fueled with data, and then the question emerges about data ownership. Thank you very much for your attention, and yeah, sorry that I had to rush through all those slides, but maybe we can now discuss a little bit. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you very much, Klaus. This was super interesting. And yes, you have to come back for 3 more cafe sessions and go deeper. I start with the question, and we also have hand raising, so I'm also giving over the mic. So my first question is, you said for Europe we don't go for technical leadership in AI, but for more legal leadership in jurisdiction. Is this
yes
really your opinion? Because it's not everybody's opinion.
No. So I'm also sitting in a couple of those boards very small sub boards to recommend something to politicians, and there I also learned a little bit about this the landscape. And for sure, what Europe achieved and is good in is is knowledge in basic technologies. So we have wonderful Max Planck institutes and Fraunhofer, and the same in France. So so this basic knowledge production that is there. What does not work is to play this strength out into the creation of business models. Whatever the reason for that is, it does not work, and it's also not foreseeable that it will work. So one can now ask, so in what compartment could the EU get leadership? And if it is not business models, not yet business models, and then we are relatively quickly with the law and the institutions, or what the EU calls this human touch,
Yes.
making the EU the place to be, where you trust in the institutions, where you can trust in the law, and then by that maybe over the years also attracting human capital. And then maybe in 20 years also to have a few business models. So this making a long story very, very short.
Okay, thank you. As we are now in discussion, I have here Jill Fayad. He has a question. If AI, by definition, is being used to get better and faster performance than humans, and is allowed to become a legal entity with ownership, what safety nets do we have against AI dominating property and capital and exploit legal loopholes in an ever-catching legal system?
Okay, if I understood the question correctly, we could imagine a scenario in which the AI becomes so much more professional than the humans, and who is going to stop it then? So if I have understood it correctly. Yeah, in principle, we would like to have those AIs, but, and now comes the complementarity with the law again, embedded in a law for legal personality that brings those AIs under control. Because as I said, maybe on this, now where is it? On this slide, it is not a competent adult. The AI is not allowed to do what the AI likes to do. If the AI is performing, then it has to it can be taxed, or the profits have to go to the shareholders, or we need regulations or consumer protections which keep those AIs in its limits. That is the same, but it's very good that this question came, because it's the same situation and also dangers we may have had 150 years ago, when we had no capital maintenance to companies, which then went into what was it? Into railway companies and railway tracks, and then those companies went bust, and it was terrible. No, those things shall not happen. I hope that I could give a kind of answer.
I think it's a good answer. Yeah, I'm going on. Jose Marie Lazaro. An AI system asked, an AI system may be located running out of the EU jurisdiction, sorry. Cloud somewhere in the Pacific, for instance. How to make it responsible for crimes, wrongdoings, etc.
Ah, yeah, I see. A good a good question and not so easily to answer. In the end, the answer would lie in appropriate design regulations. Let me explain it by a different trend in digitalization. Think about 3D printers. 3D printers can also print out weapons.
Yep.
And now think about that a CAD file for printing out weapons is in some jurisdiction in the world, and the 3D printer who is printing those weapons, very dangerous ones, is at the Mongolian border. No one can control it in principle. So then the question is, it might be helpful to have a design regulation of 3D printers worldwide to the extent possible, which technically does not allow a printer to print certain kinds of steel. You see, and that would also have to be done with algorithms. It is not that you can ex post hinder those technologies, but you may ex ante try to make it impossible for those techniques to do harmful things. But for sure, if someone likes to do those things, it will ever happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I think this was a good answer. And here comes Jill once more. Individuals and companies are incentivized to follow the law because of their natural self-preservation nature. What if that self-preservation is not integrated into the AI? Can we afford enabling it and adjusting the law afterwards?
Yeah, also a good question. I have a little bit of answer on one of my slides. Let's see. Maybe here on this slide in the second bullet point. I hope that this is a good answer. One may try, and I have some colleagues who try to do that a human-like so-called utility function is programmed into the algorithm, and that means if an algorithm does something wrong, there's another algorithm which creates so-called penalty points. and if a certain number of penalty points is reached in the algorithm, then the algorithm would know, don't do that. You feel bad. I feel deterred. There are some colleagues who try to try those things, but overall, I think my answer is again this kind of incentivizing, as the colleague asked in his question, do not proper work. Therefore, we have to go to the strong role of design regulations in the future.
Okay. I wonder if AI is self-learning, if it doesn't learn to get rid of these penalty points.
Yeah, also good question, huh? And it is also a little bit in this second bullet point here. It is not so long such a problem as it is in a company, in a big company with a specialized R&D department. If then incentives or obligations or regulations, then it is first clear I can locate the company in which this happened. This is also a bit a question to what we had before. As long as it is a company, I can locate it and give incentives or penalties or whatsoever and let them make it better. The big problem starts if this gets out of a company. And if it is in households or in public administration, they have no idea how those things work. And incentive goes and regulations go bust.
Okay. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of research to do. Anyway, now comes next question. Lea Wolf, how would discrimination, for example, of minorities protected by constitutional means, cases, how would discrimination cases, discrimination by chatbots or similar, be handled if an AI is granted a distinct legal status? Who is liable? The firm, the developer, the AI?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, kind of a differentiated answer. Again, as long as this happens in a company, it is less a problem. No, it is a problem, but it is less a problem in the sense that one would know who is the culprit here, who has done that. It was the company. The company is then in the end, as the owner of the AI, can be made liable. Possibly, if the AI has a legal personality, it has also to ensure. It has to ensure against that, so that at least compensations can be paid. It becomes again more complicated if this happens outside of companies. But then the advantage of granting a legal personality to an AI is that a compulsory liability insurance for those things can be commanded. So this would not hinder that discrimination would happen in the first place, but the compensation could be paid. And then an interesting thing kicks in, and that is what I have to tell now. Insurance companies have then a keen interest to make this a kind of business model, to get this under control, and also to find out what kind of incentives have to be given here to bring those discrimination issues to economics lingo to an optimal level. So very good. I have to make a notice here that these insurance companies are much more important than I thought till now. No? So insurance companies are a kind of solution here.
So we are, as always, we're coming slowly to the end, but there's more questions coming in. I'm telling you, we could go on and on. I will forward you these questions, so if you feel like you can answer, but as we always, the game in this cafe is we have a limited time frame. So I'm coming now to one of the last. Charles Cliff. When we talk of AI, we are talking really of just fancy math. If we are talking about giving fancy math legal personality because of harms it might cause, why then couldn't we give legal personality to the text in a book? Plenty of written works have caused immeasurable harm. Why not give legal personality to those works also?
Legal. Maybe Carmen, you can help me by identifying, so to say, the core of this question. I understood that we could also give legal personality, so to say, to other things.
Yeah, to text in a book. No? So, for example, from Oscar Wilde, the text. No?
Yeah, but yeah, okay, but
that's something we
for
can
sure.
give.
But for sure, we could give legal personality to those things if we like. I think even a Roman emperor gave legal personality to his dogs or horses or something, if I remember. But it makes not so much. It makes not so much sense. Maybe in a religious framework, those things happened. But here. We would demand that legal personality is functional, functional towards a certain aim of society, and I would say that this is to make ordinary people happy, to make and richer. and give them development and gross.
Yes.
Yeah, but if you would doubt that, yeah. Yeah, then it's yeah, okay.
But I can also sum up it. I think it is clear that you said to grant a legal personality, it's because it is functional. You said that very clear. No? It was functional to give it to a company, and it may be functional to AI to grant it. So, for example, contracts can be done. And so I think we are here in that realm. What could be functional, and it might be further research has to be done, and as it's a science, no, we are not yet having all the answers. I want to end for today because it's now coming to an end. I want to thank you, Klaus, and as I say, I may forward you questions. If you like, you may answer. I will also forward you the recording, and you may give us the permission to publish it on YouTube, so for others to watch it, but it's all up to you. So what I'm saying here is,
yeah, thank you very much, Carmen. Not only a big thank you to you and the audience, but for sure you can also put that on online. But I put also this cover page here on the screen, because there you see also my email address.
yes.
And feel free to share your thoughts with me, to approach me. I would try to answer as proper as possible, and yeah, I can only invite you to get in contact with me. I would do my very best to respond ASAP. Yeah, more is not possible from my side. I thank you very much.
That's the idea of the cafe, that we meet, and then if somebody really wants to go deep, please send an email either to me or to Klaus, and we can discuss this further. So now, as we're coming to the end, I just will invite you now to the next cafe. It will happen next week on Wednesday again at 3 p.m. This time the theme is energy efficiency. So the talk is called Energy Efficient AI, a Perspective from the Legato Project. So you will, as always, get an invitation automatically. And if you don't like that invitation anymore, just drop me an email and you are out of the invitation list. But else you have to do nothing else but click on registration and come. So, and thank you again, and have a nice day, and thank you. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. It was nice.